To the Grubhub, DoorDash, or any other food delivery employees, what is the strangest scenario you have had with an order? The delivery instructions were to beat on the door like you're the cops, and then roar like a T-Rex to scare my kids. I did this, but a small extremely confused lady answered the door. Apparently, the husband had written those instructions for a prior delivery and had not realized delivery instructions copy over to the next delivery if not deleted. I worked for a delivery company about 6 years ago. I got an order for a single cigar. Total cost of goods about $3. Delivery fee $13.50. He lived way the hell out in the boonies. He also tipped me like $10. Turns out he was drunk and delivery fee is less than a DUI. Many years ago I was a driver for Pizza Hut. We had someone place an order. Their home address was saved to our system, but in the notes, it said to deliver it to a hotel literally down the road from said home address. So I go to the hotel, knock on the door, and a dude answers in his boxers with a girl in bed peeking around to see who was at the door. 99% sure I walked into an affair encounter. Drop-off instructions said, text me when you arrive, and come to the side of the house. I broke my leg and I can't come downstairs, but I'll lower backpack down to you on a rope. Your tip is in the loop on the back. Thanks. I thought it was a setup, but turned out to be legit. I thought it was amusing. This is one of my favorite random interactions from my time as a delivery driver for a Japanese restaurant. I was sent to this house with an order of a steak hibachi and a couple of sushi rolls that added up to something like $19.60. I like to call before I got to a place, just to give people a bit of a heads up, so by the time I got to the door it was already open. In the doorway stood a chubby kid, about 9 or 10 years old, that reminded me a lot of the kid from Bad Santa, but without the curly hair. I tell him the total as I pass off his food. He hands me a $20 bill and with a straight face he smugly says, "Keep the change, pal." Immediately after, he closes the door and I stood there for a second trying to process what just happened. When I got back to my car I noticed the time and realized it was way too early for that kid to be home from school. I couldn't help but laugh at the whole situation. I wasn't even mad at getting a 40-cent tip because this kid probably faked being sick so he could stay from school and was probably in there watching TV or playing video games while eating sushi and feeling like a big shot. I know I would have at that age. Oh god, I just probably gave a delivery driver a story of their own tonight when they called me to clarify directions. Their number was the same area code as a spam call I got the other day that I answered and actually had a human on it and not a robot. So I assumed it was them again and I answered the call and just said meow instead of hi. Then they asked for me by name, like the last spam call did, and I just kept saying meow meow every time he asked me something until he was like, "Ma'am, this is your Postmates driver," and then I died from embarrassment. My boyfriend and I used to do grocery delivery. One time I had a woman order 33 oranges. Another time, he had someone order 24 jars of vanilla frosting. The store didn't even have enough vanilla frosting in stock to complete the order. Then 1 week later, we saw that the same man placed another order for 20 more jars of vanilla frosting. I picked up 26 chocolate chip cookies from McDonald's. The manager was pissed. I delivered pizza in a college town about 15 years ago. I took an order in the early afternoon to an apartment building I had never been to before. It had a locked entry and buzzer-style door, which was unusual for the area. It was usually cheap student housing or the hallways of the apartment buildings were open-air style. It takes a few minutes but someone finally buzzes the door and lets me in. I walk towards the apartment and see the door is open, and can hear really loud music. I get to the door and I see the TV is on with full volume and across the room is a radio also full volume. I look to the left and a man is walking out of the kitchen and I see he is in a hospital gown. His hair is kind of dirty and messed up and he seems to be completely out of it. I tell him the total and he starts looking around for the money. Yes, the gown was tied in the back but it did not hold against the constant bending over looking in various areas. At this point, this is already one of the weirdest things to happen to me, but then it kicks it up a notch. The college town I was in is Lawrence, Kansas. And anyone who has lived there, especially near downtown, will probably know of the peace sign guy. This dude looked like your classic Vietnam War vet. Long hair, sunglasses, leather jacket with no shirt, jeans and big boots. He would walk around with a cigarette in his mouth throwing up the peace sign to anyone and everyone. He was mostly harmless but he could get upset and lash out verbally at people, although I did not know that at the time. So who should appear at the door behind me, now boxing me into the apartment between him and hospital gown man? Peace sign guy. And he is pissed. He starts yelling about the noise and he's having to scream pretty loudly just to be heard. Hospital gown man starts yelling right back at him. He still hasn't found the money. I contemplate trying the patio door and running for it. Finally peace sign guy leaves, hospital gown man finds the money and proceeds to pull out a massive wad of crisp $20, he tipped pretty well too. I got sent to KFC to pick up a DoorDash order and the restaurant just wasn't open, no lights, no cars, nothing. I had to call the poor soul who ordered it and tell him that he wasn't getting any KFC tonight. The weirdest thing that happened to my friend who works DoorDash was yesterday. He delivered to a guy with a first name that sounded like Roger, so he pulled up, told the guy his name sounded like a battle droid from Star Wars, the dude laughed. Then they spent like 10 minutes talking about Revenge of the Sith. Pick up this big 1 a.m. Macca's order of what can only be described as stoner food, ice creams with all the toppings at once, every burger with lots of extra cheese. The delivery is in an area I'm not familiar with, so it doesn't strike me that there's no place to drop it until I get to the drop-off address and there's an empty lot. A very closed-looking community center, and nothing else. I got out to see if there's anyone partying in the lot or something, but nothing. So I call the customer, who not only doesn't answer but their mobile service isn't even connected. So I waited and, being very new to this, drove back to the Macca's. I considered offering the food, most of which I can't eat, to some guys hanging out there but decided that sketchy cold food from some random who pulled into the parking lot probably wouldn't appeal. So I just left all these bags in the parking lot. It was like $80 worth of food too. I worked as a delivery driver for a subchain that was notoriously weirdly quick. My first week there I was told of a regular, David. David would frequently order a veggie sandwich, no onions, onions do not come on this sandwich. Anytime I answered the phone to take his order he would compliment my voice and generally make things weird. Which wasn't really surprising because the sandwiches he ordered were not for him, they were for Casey, his favorite stripper at the local strip club. I tolerated talking to him on the phone because nothing brought me more joy than delivering this sandwich to Casey. Every time I went I stood patiently in the front area sex shop listening to the extremely loud bass at 12:30 p.m., waiting for Casey to finish whatever she was doing to accept this gift. Casey always wore these amazing stripper heels that made her tower over me, and she was always happy to see me. Mostly because she was absolutely loaded every time I saw her, but also because I was basically the only female driver she ever saw, and I know damn well the man I worked with also loved delivering to Casey. There were multiple times where she would roll her eyes and say, "I brought lunch today." But she would always tip $5 on a $6 sub, and that's what matters. I only worked there for 6 months, but I saw Casey at least once a week, usually more. It was always the same. David calls and places an order, and Casey stumbles out to sign for it. When my last day came around and David called, I was thrilled. I didn't take the phone call, but I was happily given the delivery to commemorate my last day. So I whip up her sandwich and head on my way. I walk through the doors head held high and I'm immediately met with a familiar hello. David. Of all days, David is at the fucking strip club and David is here to not tip me on a $6 sub. David also is very happy to meet me, and is so glad to see my face, as he loved hearing my voice. I smiled politely and ran out of there, thanking the Lord himself that it was my last day and feeling like I flew too close to the sun with my favorite stripper. It was a Tuesday afternoon around 3:30, regular calls and orders his regular pizza. This guy was always nice to me, but I could tell he was doing some hard drugs because he had lost so much weight and started to get lesions on his forehead and hands as time went on. I get to his house around 4, maybe 4:15. Deliver the pizza, and I'm walking back to my car when I feel an iron grip on my shoulder and someone shouts, "You gotta get out of the way." I turn and there's 4 or 5 county sheriff's deputies in full tactical gear. There was probably 15 to 20 police officers in total. They leave me behind one of their cars and tell me not to move, then bust this guy's door down and go in shouting "Drug Task Force" and all that. I had to stay there for about an hour and had my car searched and everything. All that they found was a travel mug my mom gave me a while before I thought I had lost. Never took another delivery to that guy. I wonder about him sometimes. I never found out the actual reason behind the raid, but I have my suspicions.